Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the Rogue-Class Starcraft, aka the Xanadu Blood, aka the Separatist pilots for this ship that we got previewed yesterday from Atomic Mass Games. We've got some droid previews and a whole new chassis for a same ship type, which is particularly interesting. We're going to be talking about this in today's video. If you guys are new here to the channel, I do want to remind you we are still giving away a $70 Amazon gift card. All you have to do to enter to win that is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. Also, big thanks to today's sponsor, Luxury Playstyle. Be sure to head over to luxuryplaystyle.com. Check out those amazing full metal tokens. They are gorgeous. They make you want to play your games more, and they're double-sided. They come in a variety of finishes. If you use code Crabbok VIP, you're going to save 15% off of these absolutely amazing tokens. They also make great prize support, so let your local stores know to pick some of these up and to use that code. Orders of $35 or more are going to get a free Crabbok token thrown in there. They're great for marking critical hits or doing light side versus dark side or whatever you want to do with them. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the new pilots we've got for the Rogue-Class Starfighter. First thing I want to draw your attention to, they're IG pilots, but they have a new ability. It's not a new ability, but it's new to them because you know the scum versions and even, I should say maybe the organic pilots of the Rogue class had a whole different, they did not have networked calculations. Now all of a sudden we've got networked calculations like our other droid fighters, like our our hyena bombers and our vulture droids and our tri-fighters and things of that sort. So network calculation, again, it's going to work very, very well with the calculation swarm. So if you're not familiar, it says while you defend or perform an attack, you may spend a calculate token from a friendly ship at range 0 to 1 to change an eyeball into a block or a hit result. Now, the interesting thing here is we haven't seen this dial, and how easy are they going to be to fly these in a swarm, or if you're going to be doing this, are you going to, is this even going to be point costed well enough that you can really fit them in a swarm? If they're more than 5 points, maybe they're not going to be that conducive to a swarm. So again, we don't know how much they're going to cost as far as points and loadouts and all of that other stuff. Also, we're only looking at uniques in this particular preview. We didn't get a preview of any generics. There may not be any generics for droid pilots. We'll have to see. But we're going to look at IG 101, Initiative 4. It says Tenacious Bodyguard. It says at the start of the system phase, you may repair a face-up damage card. It's actually a pretty solid ability. It's, you've got 5 hull. There's a pretty reasonable chance you may take a face-up damage card, so it'll let you repair that. Of course, repairing a face-up just turns it face down, doesn't actually get rid of the card, but still gets you free of those nasty effects. And for a ship with 5 hull and 2 shields, 7 hulls gives you some survivability. I think the interesting thing here is that is just network calculations. You have a tankier ship that is in the mix with everything else that can do networked calculations. You're more likely to be alive long enough to spend those tokens or to have other people spend your tokens. And so that's kind of cool. Maybe this is going to be a ship that can fly at the front of a swarm and maybe take the alpha strike and still live to fire back while everybody else is also using network calculations. Maybe that's part of the appeal here. But I'm a little I think I liked the other abilities more. I think I liked the human pilots and Cad Bane's kind of abilities more that are built into the ship, where you basically stop somebody from modifying their green dice, because in the case of this ship, it's still only got 2 attack, and it's harder to get that damage through, and so it really makes me it puts this in a weird spot for me, because what could it cost? Because it's got a lot more hull than a lot of those other droid pilots ships tend to have on the Separatist side, but at the same time, it's also got fairly weak firepower. Now again, we don't know what kind of loadout options these droid pilots are going to have, and so firing torpedoes and missiles and things like that might be their preferred option. So that's something that is probably more likely going to happen. And of course, if you're going to spend the points for a pilot with an expensive loadout, enough to be able to put some torpedoes and some other ordnance on this ship, then I think having the shields and the extra hull value will help you kind of justify that cost, and hopefully you'll live long enough to fire your payload. All right, so moving on from IG-101, we've got IG-102. Imagine that. And this is one of the most interesting art pieces because it really looks like IG-102 is a Providence with like an extra, doesn't it look like he's like he's connected to the Providence, like the Providence cruiser behind him. That's really funny. When I saw this on the preview, I thought, wait, is that a whole new ship? What is that? So IG-102 is the dueling droid at Initiative 4 also. It says, while you defend, if the attacker's initiative is equal or greater than yours, you may change one blank result to an eyeball result. It's going to work great with networked calculations. Of course, being able to mitigate blank results is good. You're guaranteeing at least one block there, or one dodge rather, because if you've got calculate tokens in the swarm, then you're going to be doing just fine. Now, an interesting thing about that I talk about in the swarm again. If you're running these right next to other ships that are doing this, it's going to be a little more difficult to make use of your repositional abilities. That this ship is built to be able to to maximize its ability to put people in a bullseye arc, because of the scum pilots and Cad Bane's the chassis ability is totally different on there. So if you're trying to be hypermobile, you're not going to be able to take advantage of networked calculations. So I feel like looking at this, I'm like, these are, I don't know if I just don't know. I'm kind of confused with this. Like, how are you going to fly them? Are you going to, maybe just have them all scattered all over the place and doing random different things? Or is this kind of a case where they're going to, kind of give up their mobility to fly with a swarm? And maybe that's kind of the trick, is you start off flying with a swarm, and as the game progresses, and if the swarm gets picked apart, well, then these guys can break away and rely on their mobility. And maybe you run two of them in the same build, and they get to spend it, do network calculate each other. That could be a thing. All right, we've got IG-111, One Eye. And he's Initiative 1, as a matter of fact. So that's pretty... He's got ones everywhere. There's ones all over this place. So Initiative 1 makes this one actually really interesting. And, I talk a little bit about the mobility. Here's a ship that's actually going to try to take advantage of that mobility. It says, after you perform an attack that missed, you may choose one enemy ship in your bullseye and gain a deplete token. If you do, that ship suffers 1 damage. Regular. So, that's actually a really cool ability, because the problem, like, getting a deplete token really isn't that big of a deal for you, because they're like, hey, no problem. As long as I attack you again and I'm still in bullseye, I won't care if I have a deplete. Even if I roll one less die, I don't care, because I hope it misses, because then you're still going to suffer another damage. It may be almost better to roll 1 die, because then you can guarantee at least 1 damage. Whereas if you just roll 2 normally, you're not really guaranteed to get any. Well, I guess you are kind of guaranteed to get damage. I guess technically you're better off rolling 2, because there's a chance of getting 2. And if you're better off rolling 3 at close range, and then forcing them to do you want to even spend your focus, because even no matter what you do here, you're going to take at least 1 damage. So that's he's a really interesting one. I like that. It's going to be, again, you're probably not going to be able to take advantage of networked calculations on this guy, but you probably don't need to, because all you need to really do is perform the attack and have them in your bullseye. So here's kind of a pilot that wants to kind of break away and do their own thing, as opposed to the other two, which probably want to be in formation, or at least close to other ships a large portion of the time, maybe not all the time, probably at least at the beginning of the game. And this guy's just he's going off, he's doing his own thing. If he happens to bump into somebody else or get close to somebody else, and you can do networked calculations, I feel like he's probably a better person to take a calculate and just keep it for someone else. He doesn't even need to spend it, and unless you just roll that perfect, unless you roll like range 1 bullseye arc or just range 1 attack, and it's like 2 crits and an eyeball, right? And then you're like, or I guess if they're just not in your bullseye arc, then you really will need to make sure those dice hit, because they've got to be in your bullseye arc. And if you're range 1, usually you're in a bullseye arc anyway. So yeah, very interesting. He's got so many different things all over the place. But that's some of our droid pilots for the Rogue-Class Starcraft. It's surprising to me that we're having a whole different chassis ability for some of the pilots. That's not something you often see, but it's kind of cool to see them breaking out of the mold a little bit. All right, guys, that is going to do it for today's video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks for my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make all of this possible. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. So say we all. Be excellent to each other and party on.